To prepare for this year's Swiss Alpine Marathon, I came out to Europe in early June, so I had time to prepare for the altitude, the terrain and the specific conditions that you find here in the Alps. And the big thing for me is just spending time out in these big mountains, and in some ways it's almost a consciousness thing. If you spend a lot of time in that sort of environment, you become very comfortable and very attuned with that environment. So then when the event comes, you feel really at home in that sort of space and that sort of place. So I did a lot of very good training. I was specifically focusing on my climbing, as this race has one of the biggest climbs from Burgoon up to the Sertig Pass, which is more than 1,700 meters. So I really did a lot of climbing to really condition my legs. And it was great. I had a lot of time, apart from training, just to read, do things that inspire me, like meditation, eat well. So by the time the race came, I was feeling very comfortable, relaxed, and ready for a good performance. I was in second place until Burgoon, and then on the big climb up to the Sertig Pass, I passed the runner from Ukraine. And so at that point, when you move into the lead, you have no idea how far anyone is behind you. So it really changes the dynamics. When you're in second place, you're always getting time checks and updates. People are telling you how many minutes ahead or how many minutes behind people are. But once you get to that point where you're leading the race, at that point, it becomes less about what anyone else is doing. And for me, it becomes a real experience of trying to really reach my own true potential. When I take the lead, I don't want to look back. I don't want to think about any of the other runners. I don't want to worry about what anyone else is doing. I want to focus on the things I can control. So when I hit the front of the race, all I want to try and do is just run as hard as I can all the way to the finish line. And that's a great thing, because it allows you to really stay in the moment. If you're thinking about the runners behind you, or if you're thinking that you're winning or wondering what's going to happen later in the race, it totally takes you out of that present moment. And so what I try and do is just keep it really simple, just stay focused, stay present, and then just try and give everything I can. So when I get to the finish line, even if I'm first, second or 10th, I can feel proud that I gave everything out there. And on this day, it turned out to be one of those great occasions where everything clicked and came together and I crossed the line first. For me, my meditation life and my sporting life go together hand in hand. They really are almost like two sides of the same coin. And from my meditation, I gain so many qualities that help with my running. And from running, I gain so many qualities that aid with my meditation. So I really see them as almost like two legs. And so when I'm racing, what I try and do is I try and, as I said, I try and stay in the moment, I stay present. But I also try and feel a sense of gratitude. If I can feel a sense of gratitude or a sense of love for what I'm doing, then I really feel as though I can really give myself fully to the activity I'm taking part in. When I'm out there and I'm in somewhere that's so beautiful as the Swiss Alps are, I really try and be grateful for that opportunity and really just try and feel that this is a special opportunity. And so when you do that, you really want to give everything. You don't want to leave anything for the finish. You want to really just put everything you can into that activity that you're taking part in. So for me, I took part in sports when I was younger, when I was a teenager, when I was 12, 13, 14. So I was doing running at that point. And then at some point, I realized I was doing sports for the wrong reason. I was doing it to beat other people. I was doing it for the outer glory. And so at some point that no longer provided me with the satisfaction that I needed. So for some years, I stopped competing in sports altogether. And it wasn't really until I started meditating, and through my association with Sri Chinmoy, he really showed me that there was a completely different way to approach sports. So instead of sports being something where we try and defeat other people and we try and show our supremacy, sports can be a way of challenging our own capacities and trying to transcend what we've done before. So this concept, or this idea of self-transcendence, was the thing that really inspired me to come back to running. And so when I came back, I had a completely different way of doing things. Instead of trying to beat the other runners, I was instead trying to beat or transcend what I'd done before. And so it's a different way of approaching things, but it's also a very joyful way of approaching things, because when I'm in a race with other runners, instead of feeling like I'm running against them or competing with them, I feel as though we're all trying to compete with ourselves. So those other runners, they inspire me to bring out my best capacities. So we all really help each other on the journey. For me, the journey to find my spiritual teacher and my spiritual path began when I was 14 years old. And at that time, I had my first spiritual experience. I was out in nature and I was enjoying the beauty of nature. And in that moment, I felt a connection with my heart, and I felt an expansion, and I felt this deeper reality within me. And at that time in my life, I had no idea what it was or how to get in touch with that. So from that age onwards, I was always interested in looking into this world of consciousness and spirituality to find out how and why I had this experience. So it wasn't until I was 18 that I saw a flyer for the Sri Chinmoy meditation classes, and I still remember it said free meditation classes, so that was a great thing for me at that age. But also just on the back, I remember seeing there was a small picture of Sri Chinmoy, and as soon as I saw his picture, I felt a sense of authenticity, and I felt that this man could help me find what I was looking for. So from that point on, when I was 18, I started meditating with the Sri Chinmoy Center, and I was very lucky to be able to spend quite a few years in Sri Chinmoy's presence and learn much from him about the ways of meditation and how we can make it part of our lifestyle. And so I know that my life would be nothing compared to what it is now without that experience and without that time I got to spend with Sri Chinmoy. So I'm very grateful for that journey that he's helped me with. For me, my spiritual life, I would say, is based on the two qualities I love the most, are gratitude and love. And so for me, if I can be grateful and feel gratitude in my life for what I have and what I am, that brings such a sense of joy and happiness into my life that it permeates every part of my activities. And I really feel that our time on earth is so fleeting, and it's such a special opportunity to be here in this amazing universe, on this amazing planet. And so feeling gratitude and feeling love for this opportunity, loving what we do, loving these opportunities that present themselves to us, gives us a real deeper appreciation of this human experience. When I started meditating, I also took the step to become vegetarian. So when I started running again, I was already eating a vegetarian diet, and I find for me that that's a really ideal diet for sports performance. And so what I try and focus on with my diet on a daily basis is getting in a good amount of fresh fruits and eating a good amount of vegetables each day. And then from there, I just try and eat as much whole food as possible. I try and stay away as much as possible from refined and processed products, and try and eat foods that are nutritionally dense. And so that really suits the vegetarian diet to a T, because the plant kingdom is full of so many nutrient dense foods. And I try and drink a lot of water. That's one thing that's very important, especially when you're spending time in the mountains. It's quite a dry atmosphere up there, or a dry environment, so I always try and drink a lot of water, and I always try and take care that I'm getting enough electrolytes in my diet as well, because when you're training really hard, you're losing a lot of your electrolytes, so I try and always keep on top of those. I try and take some extra magnesium when I'm training hard, and when I'm in the mountains I try and take some extra iron just to make sure that I've got enough iron to make new red blood cells. And I'm really lucky that when I'm in Switzerland here, there's so many great vegetarian and vegan products. So I drink a lot of cereal drinks and chi. My advice for someone who's looking to take up sports or maybe take up a new activity is really find something that you love and really try and do it for the right reasons. Often people start running or doing something like that to lose weight or to be competitive with other people. But at the end of the day, it's the sport of running in particular is a very deep sport, and you can learn a lot about yourself and you can develop a lot of good qualities through the practicing of that discipline. So I feel that if you can do it for the right reasons, which is your own inner reasons, not doing it to please other people, not doing it to impress anyone, but instead doing it for your own inner satisfaction, that means that it's going to be something that you can do for the long term. It's going to be something that you can make part of your lifestyle, and it's going to give you joy over many, many years. And you don't need to be trying to compete with people who've been running for many years, or competing with your friends or anyone like that. If you can instead try and compete with yourself, if you've never ran 5Ks before, the first time you do that, that's a huge achievement and a great victory for you. So instead of trying to judge yourself against other people around you, instead try and judge yourself against your own capacities and what you've achieved in the past. My goal now is to spend some time focusing on the marathon. So the marathon is a quite different event than the mountainous races I'm normally doing. But the skills and the ability to run fast on the road really help transfer back to the mountain races as well. So I'm spending the next couple of months preparing for the Berlin Marathon and hoping to have a good performance there and to transcend my previous best time. And then from there, once the summer begins in the Southern Hemisphere, I have a whole series of races in New Zealand, in Australia, and South America. So I'm really looking forward to getting back into the mountains, but for this next period of time, it's going to be focusing on trying to run fast. Two races that are most special to me. So the first one is the Kepler Challenge in New Zealand, which was the first big mountain race that I won. And so when I won that opened a lot of doors for me, and it just showed me that I had the capacity to actually be able to really compete with some of the best athletes in the world. So that race is always very special to me. And the other race that's really special to me is the first ultramarathon I did, which is the Sri Chinmoy 47-mile race, which is held in New York every year. And that was my first ultramarathon, and it really introduced me to this whole new world of running. And for me, that race has such a special consciousness and such a special energy. There's many people who come to New York to celebrate Sri Chinmoy's birthday every year, and many of these people take part in this event. So it's a real family oneness feeling. And it's just really inspiring to be able to run a race like this to celebrate Sri Chinmoy's birthday and to celebrate all that he offered to the world. My biggest dream for me is something very personal. There's a lot of big races in the world, and there's a lot of big adventures that I'd love to take part in and I'd love to be able to complete. But for me, my biggest dream when it comes to running is to be able to do what I'm doing now in another 20 years, in another 30 years time. If I can be in my 60s and still able to get out in the mountains and enjoy the beautiful scenery and enjoy pushing myself to my own capacity and challenging my own limits, that for me is a real victory. The fame and the great results and the big victories, they're all but a fleeting experience. No one can hold on to those things forever, but I hope for me that running is something that I have for my whole lifetime. It's something that I can continue to do and continue to get joy and satisfaction from, throughout my lifetime.